Theodore Beale, a.k.a. Vox Day, which is Latin for the voice of God. voxday.blogspot.com, his website. Christian libertarian, author of several books, including A Throne of Bones, just out today. The blog is Vox Populi, which would be the voice of the people. So, voice of God, welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
Great to have you with us. You are a self-professed secessionist. Explain this to me.
Well, the way that I would begin it is that I would say that I favor self-determination for all peoples, whether they're American, whether they're Scottish, whether they're Catalonian.
Well, any person, including yourself, can hop on a plane and go to any other country, and if you can get them to take you, you're there.
Well, I am. I've lived in Europe for 13, 14 years now.
Okay. So, what's the problem?
Well, I don't have any problem. It's simply a intellectual thing. It's simply understanding that throughout the course of human history, it is entirely normal for groups of people to come together for a period of time and then break apart after a while. This is a pattern of history that has existed for as long as man has written these things down. In fact, in that new novel that you mentioned, it's based on the Roman social war of 91 BC, which was essentially a secessionist movement, even though they ended up joining the empire after all.
So you're suggesting, let's translate this into simple English. Are you suggesting that the citizens of any particular state on a majority vote should be able to simply withdraw themselves from the Union as states did in 1860?
Of course, that we're seeing it happen right now in Scotland. We think it's unthinkable because America is such a short-lived.
But Scotland has historically been a separate country, and they have profoundly different. I spent a fair amount of time in Scotland, and it's a very different culture from British culture, and they have fought wars over the years. What's his name? The crazy actor Mel Gibson. Made a movie out of one of them. They fought wars with the British. England historically was a separate country just because they happened to be on the same island. And you could argue that the only reason Scotland was part of the United Kingdom is because they were conquered, and now they're unconquering themselves. That's very different from states voluntarily joining a union like we have here in the United States.
But they weren't conquered. They came together as part of the voluntary acts of union from 1707. Their voluntarily, democratically supported union has lasted more than twice as long as the history of the United States. And so we're seeing this all over the world. We're seeing Catalonia, which has been part of Castilian Spain for even longer than Scotland's been part of the United Kingdom, voting, again democratically, left and right joining together to vote the secessionists into power.
Right.
And so,
but again, don't you think that that's because they're sick and tired of Spain being part of the EU and thus having lost their national sovereignty, and so they're going to claim their own national sovereignty and withdraw themselves from the EU?
That might be the case with the Catalonians. It's not the case with the Scottish. The Scottish actually want to get out of the United Kingdom and then join the EU in their own right, which
seems crazy to me.
It's totally crazy to me too.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point about self-determination is that what is it to us as Americans or whatever we might be.
So do you think Lincoln should have just said, when the South seceded? Even before a number of the states seceded after he was elected, but before he was installed into office, because back then the elections were in November and you were sworn into office in March. And during that time, you had a bunch of states that said, "Okay, that's it, we're out of here." That he should have just said goodbye.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the interesting thing is that before Lincoln, about maybe 30 years before that, the secessionist states were the New England states. They were the ones who were talking about seceding. I don't recall what the deal was, why they were interested, but it was never really questioned, that a state had the right to voluntarily leave the Union, because otherwise, if they didn't have the right to voluntarily leave, then it was just another,
But that right is not laid out in the Constitution.
I'm sorry?
That right is not laid out in the Constitution.
Well, no, because the Constitution has to do with the rights of the federal government. It doesn't have anything to do with the rights of the states. Why if you're writing a document
well,
limiting
actually,
the
it
federal
does.
government,
It gives the federal government, for example, the right to regulate commerce between the states. It says how states shall apportion their electors. It says how states shall determine the number of representatives they're sending to Washington, D.C. There are a lot of rules for the states.
And those are all things that have to do with the operation of the federal government. It doesn't have anything to do with the operation of the sovereign and several states.
So what about the people?
Obviously, when you join a group, you agree to abide by the rules of that group.
So if Texas secedes and becomes the independent nation of Texas, what happens to those Americans in Texas who consider themselves Americans who don't want secession?
Well, presumably in a democratic country and in a free and democratic country, those people would either have to decide if they wanted to stay and accept it, the same way that the people in America at the time of the Revolutionary War, many of them either moved to Canada or moved back to England, or in some cases they just decided to stay and become Americans. It would be up to them, and presumably the Texans would be focused enough on freedom that they would let those people do whatever it was they wanted.
What is it about the United States? Excuse me. What is it about the United States that, first of all, what state do you live in?
I don't. I've lived in, like I said, I've lived in Italy for 13 years.
So you live in Italy right now?
I used to live in Minnesota.
In Minnesota. So you really don't have a dog in this fight. Doesn't that diminish your credibility somewhat in making these kind of statements? I mean, this isn't going to affect you.
Well, no, of course it's going to affect me in a sense in that, I have friends and family there. I mean, I wouldn't say that, would you say about somebody who lived in the States who has family back in Scotland that they have no, of course there's an interest, but my primary interest in this, as in practically everything, is primarily intellectual. Am I going to shed any massive tears if Catalonia breaks away from Spain? No. Am I going to be terribly upset if Texas decides to be independent? No. I mean, if you support self-determination for one group of people in the world, you should support it for everyone. And why shouldn't Americans have the same right of self-determination that we support for the people in Libya, for the people in Egypt?
But most of the states who are talking about secession are states that for every dollar that they send to Washington, D.C., they get back $1.10, $1.20, $1.30. Texas gets more federal money in than they send out. So when they secede, first of all the military bases in the state would close, and that's not even included in that equation that I just shared with you. Secondly, everybody loses their Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all those other things. How is that state going to exist?
Well, first of all, Texas is not going to have any trouble existing because Texas is would be one of the, I believe, 20 largest economies in the world, 30 largest economies in the world. I mean, if
not without federal infrastructure.
Oh, they don't. Obviously, it might not be quite as easy for them, but whether it is or not, that's their right to say. It's not for you or for me to decide. If Delaware, for example, let's take the most absurd example. Delaware would be like Liechtenstein or something, and now they wouldn't have. You wouldn't think that they would have any business going independent. But if they want to go independent and live in grass huts and that sort of thing, what is that to you or me? I mean, that's what freedom is all about, is allowing people the freedom to make stupid choices.
Well, you make a very compelling and libertarian argument, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com. And his new books, A Throne of Bones, and the website Vox Populi. Interesting. I wonder if this is going to be the thing for the Republican Party.